It's like we were just together.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, look at us. Yeah. So this week, guys, is my snack size episode, and it's going to be a super, super quick one for you, but it is really weird, and it really, really did happen. So, Laura, I'm going to tell you and all of our peeps today about Einstein's stolen brain. Have you ever heard? Have you heard of this?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
I do know this. I don't know the whole story, so I'm excited.
Okay, good. Okay. So I got my information from ranker.com, and that's it. It was just such a concise story that I was like, this is perfect. So it might actually sound like the plot of a sci-fi B movie that I love. I love all those kind of stupid, even D movies, like Sharknado. Huge fan of Sharknado. I love that kind of crap. But this...
I used to love like the old ones. Like in the 80s, you know, when they had like USA Up All Night, remember that? And they would have like Swamp Thing on.
Yes!
And like Elvira would do some of them. And,
God, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. I would stay up late as a little kid and watch all the like the super cheesy horror movies.
Awful ones.
So awesome.
Yes. Oh my God, yes. Debbie Gibson was in one. It was like Sharktopus versus Octodile or some kind of crazy shit on sci-fi.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I got to watch this because I love all this garbage crap. And acting was bad and she was terrible and it was just such good trash. I can't get enough of it.
Good fun.
Good fun. This, however, is true. And Einstein's brain really was stolen shortly after his passing. So... in the 19th century, the brains of geniuses were often preserved so that scientists could try to determine the origin of that person's intelligence. Okay. So one example is half of the brain of Charles Babbage, who was the inventor of the first computing machine. His brain is still on display at the Hunterian Museum at London's Royal College of Surgeons. Like, it's just one of those things. Yeah, like... in Philadelphia, I think it's in Philadelphia, the Mutter Museum is filled with all kinds of physical anomalies and like brains in jars and people that suffered from, what is that, that disorder that, the kid that started the movie with Cher. It was like... that, you know, the disorder where his head was misshapen. It's specimens all over. It's called the Mutter Museum, and I think it's in Philadelphia. But there are places like that all over the world. So Einstein was actually aware that scientists might want to study his brain after he died, and he explicitly forbade it, knowing that such studies rarely produce any kind of useful information. However... when Einstein passed at Princeton Hospital in the early morning of April 18th, 1955, the pathologist who did his autopsy, Dr. Thomas Harvey, decided to remove the brain on his own initiative for future study. So he took Einstein's brain home, divided it into 240 pieces, and stored it in mason jars filled with celluloid. So shortly after Einstein's cremation, his son, Hans Albert, found out about the theft of his father's brain and was furious. But Dr. Harvey somehow managed to convince him to let him keep it.
Oh, that's weird.
Isn't that fucking weird? I'd be like, absolutely not. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he was a hell of a salesman or something. I'm not sure. So
dude, weird.
Yeah. Taking the brain of the world's most famous physicist without permission did have professional consequences for Dr. Harvey. He soon lost both his job at Princeton Hospital and his marriage and ended up moving to the Midwest. There he took a series of jobs, either practicing medicine or running research labs. He kept Einstein's brain for the next several decades. At one point, storing it in a cider box underneath a beer cooler, hoping to unlock the secrets of Einstein's intelligence. Now, the fate of Einstein's brain was mostly unknown until 1978 when a reporter tracked Dr. Harvey down in Wichita, Kansas. So the magazine article about Harvey brought a flood of requests for samples of the brain to study. And starting in 1985, scientists began publishing their findings. Many of these studies did claim to find some differences between Einstein's brain and that of a normal person. So I guess your brain or my brain.
Right.
But they also lacked representative control groups. So it made their findings suspect. And even if these studies had been conducted more effectively, neurology still hasn't determined whether or not the physical structures of the brain actually affect a person's intelligence. Correct. So today, what remains of Einstein's brain resides at the Penn Medicine Princeton Medical Center in Plainsboro, New Jersey, and almost nobody is allowed to see it. Not even researchers. But many more pieces of Einstein's brain can possibly still be found across America, thanks to Dr. Harvey's habit of giving away pieces of it to curious friends.
What in the actual fuck?
Yep. And that is the story of
like, hey,
Einstein's
here, buddy.
stolen brain. Is that not
You're
the
a
most
stand-up guy?
Right?
That's fucked up.
Laura, give me a piece of Einstein's brain just so I can say I have it. I'll keep it in my pocket and hopefully it'll make me smarter. I mean, what?
Like, and plus, like, even the research that was done on it later, like, how do you, like, because it was, seems stored so randomly and apparently passed out as gifts for fucking Christmas or whatever. Like, how do you know?
Dinner parties, it's favors.
Right? Like, yeah. Seriously. That's fucking
Isn't that
crazy.
fucking nuts?
Wow. I didn't know all that. That's
wild, right?
It's a crazier story than even I thought it was. I didn't know his brain was stolen. I don't know how that guy kept his medical license.
I don't either, because he did go on to like run research labs and do all this other stuff in Kansas when he lost his job at Princeton Hospital.
Yeah, you said he lost his job and his marriage. I thought you were going to say he lost his medical license. I was like, how the fuck did he keep that?
Yeah, apparently that was okay. And what I don't understand is how he convinced Einstein's son to let him keep it.
I don't either.
I'd be like, bitch, you are giving me back every single piece. That's horrible.
Yeah, I would have cut his fucking brain out. Like,
right?
Can you imagine if somebody, like...
Oh, that's horrible.
To, like, your loved one? Just, like, yeah.
Especially when Einstein explicitly forbade doing that. He knew people did it.
Right. Mm-hmm. And he said no.
I hope he's haunting the fuck out of that guy if he's still alive.
Right.
I hope he was haunting him the whole time.
He's got a lot of places to go with all these people that have places.
He's like, Carrie, I can't go to 240 places. I'm sorry.
Right.
It's a lot.
Like, I'm doing the rounds.
Yeah.
It takes me a while to get there.
Yeah, I have eternity, but still. Yeah, so that is the story of Einstein's stolen brain, which I had actually never heard of. And I'm looking for stories this morning, and I'm like, well, it's the first one I saw, and I'm like, well, this seems interesting. And so I read it, and I'm like, I gotta do it. It's so good. The other one that I considered doing, but that would have been even shorter, was a pope in the 15th century took his deceased predecessor to trial. And I was like, well, that sounds interesting. But yeah, I ended up choosing this one. So that is it, guys. This is your weird story to get your week started off right and weird. So we hope that you enjoyed it. And as always, as I said last week, I'll say it this week. I'll say it on Saturday. We are going to Spirit Con in St. Augustine, Florida. Next May, we're going to be there with Karen Tatro, Dustin Perry, Andrea Perrin, tons of wonderful vendors, all kinds of cool stuff. There's going to be a psychic fair. There's going to be investigations of the Jimenez Facio House on Friday night. We are going to be joining the paranormal investigation of St. Augustine Lighthouse Saturday night. There's going to be all kinds of really, really cool stuff. And Laura and I are super excited. So come on down and see us. And to that end, Laura, I say, everybody stay safe out there, because you never know who
or what
is listening. Bye, guys.